We're good to go.
But you have to let everyone in.
I'm working, I got it. We're actively at it.
I don't know, I'm still waiting.
Oh, you're not.
I'm not
on
in
the
either.
list.
I clicked the link that was in Amanda's email.
Yeah, I did too. Is it
Did you
different?
not see us?
Oh,
I do not see you.
Uh-oh,
okay.
that's the
Was it
one.
in the first one or the second one? Because I sent an updated one.
She sent it today at 2:34 PM.
Yeah, that's the one I did.
What's the last little bit of the email? Does it end in 09?
Let me look.
The URL? Oh, wait.
The one you sent it out ends in 09,
Oh, yeah. When did she send it?
12:30.
Yeah, UT09.
Nope.
It's the meeting ID is 95591338019.
Nope, the other one.
She sent the wrong one to the list, Amanda, because that's what I tried to click.
Yola, do you have people on your meeting?
I do.
Some people have the wrong link.
Some have the right one, some have the wrong.
So who is the owner of that wrong meeting?
It's also us. It was an old meeting of ours.
Because we're gonna have to log in and let those people know.
I know, like I'm in the wrong one.
But you're not able to open the meeting. is
No,
that-
because I didn't set it
It's not
up.
you on this.
So
one.
I don't know who set it up.
It was set up with the wrong link and then I sent a new one, an
And is-
updated one. Correct.
Is this laptop?
So
able to get
Amanda
on that?
sent it out
Here,
to the
this is
listener.
Jen-
We're gonna
oh,
have
Jen's
tell
getting
people
it.
Do
the
you
wrong
see me
meeting.
now?
I
Yeah.
So
do.
the link on the agenda is correct, but the Zoom link that Amanda sent independently in the email is not. Which sucks. Sorry, that was my fault.
I don't know if I'm not on the listserv.
Oh, should I, do you want me to email the listserv right now?
So if we can start that other meeting, we can let people know to get to this one. But is this the laptop? Is this the account from which that other meeting? Is this the owner, is this account the owner of that other meeting?
Yes,
Oh.
Can we do dual meetings?
I don't know.
Well, it's a setting that you have to turn on.
Okay. I was just gonna try to email the listserv.
Well, you do that. and I'll see if I can do dueling meetings.
The other one ends in 8019.
Yeah, we'd have to log in to set that setting. You can just try to start it.
She'll let
If you-
me in,
if-
she's trying to get
I
the other.
can log in.
Well, if you log in over there, you start that other meeting concurrently. and then let people know.
Start the other meeting here too.
Try to
Think I know how to do that?
by clicking on it. If you log in under the right.
No,
account.
this is that one.
Okay, and where's the link to the other one? There's
I
a
just
whole
sent-
bunch of people now.
I just sent it to the listserv.
So did I.
Let's just
Very
let
like,
these
great,
people in.
thanks.
All right, okay, fair enough. Let's do that.
Fun times.
All right, let's give it a minute.
All right. I'll keep letting people in. Frank, if you want to go ahead.
Ready to go? Okay. So I'm Frank Barodi, the superintendent of schools at Lyme and interim basis. And I'm opening our reorganization meeting at 8:08. This meeting usually is fairly short. It's really is about getting reorganized or moving forward for the year. And we have another regular meeting scheduled potentially for next week on Thursday at 7. So generally, there's a set of items that need to be completed as sort of business items. Every school district does this a little bit different, and so I went back through your old reorganization minutes to try to see what items you actually talk about and approve. Some people reaffirm their policy manuals, their safety manuals, and all these things to keep a current date on all that. I did not put all that in here. So first item of business is the election of a new board chair. Are there nominations for board chair?
I nominate Yola Bujarski to continue
I'll second
in
that.
that capacity.
Any other nominations? We have a nomination and a second. Seeing no other nominations, all those who would like to see Yola continue on as board chair for another year, just state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Yola, this meeting is now yours. Congratulations.
Oh, boy.
For adults.
Another year
Another
of like
year.
no sleep at night.
Right. So with that, I would like to open for nominations for vice chair. Anybody have a nomination for vice chair?
I'm happy to continue.
That's good. Anyone else?
I'll nominate Jen.
Thanks, Vince.
All right. So, anyone else? So I will do all in favor of Elizabeth. Or do we have a second? We need a
We
second,
need
I'm
a
sorry.
second for all of us, don't we?
We do need a second for all of them. So do we have a second for Elizabeth? Sorry. Seeing none, do we have a second for Jen?
I will second Jen.
Any further discussion? All in favor of Jen as vice chair? Aye.
Aye.
Do you
I
actually
vote
want
for
the job?
myself?
Yeah.
I do. I don't want to be secretary anymore. Yeah, I do. I'm happy to be vice chair. I think that's great.
And so now we have a motion for a secretary.
Vince, do you want to go?
She just said she didn't want it.
Oh, secretary? Well, I can't be vice chair and secretary. And I haven't.
I mean, do you want to go at secretary? I'll nominate Vince.
I would second that nomination. Anyone else?
So do it
Does
then.
Vince just
All in
accept the
favor?
nomination?
You accept it, right?
Oh, gosh, sure.
You have to take the non-public meeting notes.
Yeah, I know.
Which I
Yeah.
started for today.
Fine.
All right, all in favor of Vince as as a secretary?
Aye.
All right. The next one is I haven't actually talked to anybody about is doing a communications, to be a chair of communications, which I think we can talk about further later on if we want to continue communications altogether as a committee, but
Who's the current chair?
it was Sarah.
Oh, Sarah.
The main thing at this point for a communications chair would probably be to run the OWL. And we could decide if we want to continue running the OWL and continue with Zoom and make decisions around that, but that could be, because we don't have to do any of that. So do I have anybody?
I think we should definitely keep doing the owl and presenting the board meetings by Zoom for people who can't come.
Okay.
We should definitely do that.
We have a volunteer for communications chair.
I would just say, I wouldn't mind the job, but I don't think I can get here early enough to get it set up oftentimes.
Well, we should split that responsibility on that thing anyway, in case people can't make it. So maybe we should get multiple people educated on that skill.
Yeah, so do we have, is that the dedicated computer when you're
No,
on
this is
there?
upstairs. This was upstairs. She had to go up and get it.
Okay.
But
But
the owl
that's what
itself
the-
lives in this room.
That's what the OWL connects, yeah. I mean,
I
she
just don't
left
know if the owl
This
instructions.
is
cares if
cool.
it's switching
Yeah.
from Mac to PC, because I always have a PC that doesn't matter. Do you know?
Well,
The
so
owl?
the OWL is connected to
Doesn't, because I booked it online.
It doesn't care.
It doesn't care.
Yeah.
here.
All right, well, so
All right.
Yeah.
Hayes is offering to be communications chair. Does anybody have any opposed to that?
I'm not opposed to it and I can help do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like in terms of getting here early, I'm happy to, I can often get here early. So
Perfect.
usually it's 7 or 8.
Do we need election to break us? We have to vote it in, right? So Hayes nominated herself. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, now we have public comments. So I'd like to open the floor for public comment. Elise, thank you. I see that you're.
Who's taking,
Can
who is the
everybody hear
secretary?
you?
I mean, who's taking notes on this meeting?
It's Kate, and
Yeah,
then
it's reserved.
he transcribed.
You'll
Okay.
love to make a comment if we have time.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting that you all just experienced a perfect example of using Vince as your tech specialist. So if you could just imagine that you have about 20 minutes to plan for a grade for a class, and you just spent 8 minutes on it trying to figure out how to make that Zoom meeting open, how that really deters you from using that technology in your classroom. So I actually thought that was just a perfect example of what happens when you have a tech specialist handy.
Thank you.
That was the question.
Yeah, no, Roger, he'll transcribe from the video.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why we,
Got it.
well, it's one reason why we record it. The other reason is that we post it to a private YouTube channel. And those are available like through the website on the school.
They were,
But just for the record, like if you search YouTube, you
can't.
can't find our meeting that way. You have to kind of.
Hi, Matt. Matt, go ahead.
Hey, gang. So I wanted to raise an issue that's come up a couple times over the course of the last year. I see Carl's on, so that's useful as well. And this relates to sort of communication with the high school families. There have been several times, and I know it's related to both shifts and superintendent, as well as actually how the transportation was set up with Thetford Academy at the beginning of the year. But there's been 3 or 4 times this year when kids have been left sitting at the school unaware that no bus was coming to pick them up to bring them to TA. And I know there've been multiple steps taken to correct this, but I'm hoping this is an opportunity to take some lemons and make lemonade. I think we would be really well served by having email accounts that target the high school families. And that may be by school as well as by grade. I think it's a great opportunity to stay in touch with Lyme School alumni and their families, as well as, disseminate information when a need arises to do that. So I just wanted to put that out there as something for the new communications committee chair potentially to take up. Maybe it sort of falls into a gray area of whether this is district responsibility versus Lyme school responsibility. It's probably more district responsibility. But I think it would be great to address this, not just for times when there's, sort of an acute need to get information out to those families, but I think also, when there are times to, invite high school students to participate in things that are happening in the district, communicate successes of the Lyme school, and stay in touch with alumni. So I just wanted to bring that up to the full board. I know I've spoken to a couple of you about it, but just say that here, as I think it ties into some of the activities of the committees we're talking about. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. Is there anybody else that wanted to have public comment? All right, so seeing none, we'll close public comment. Is there any staff or LEA comment?
There is indeed. So I just emailed you all a statement that I'm going to read. I'd like to be put in a public record. For Jim and Jonathan, I have paper copies because I didn't have your school board email address set up. There you go. Thank you. I do. Okay. So, good evening. My name is Tom Harkins, and I am the co-president of the Lyme Education Association. This is Kate Cook. She's the other co-president. which is the teachers union here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Welcome to Jim. Welcome back to Jonathan. Thank you both, and thanks to all of you for serving on the board. I'd like to speak tonight about technology in the school. On your agenda tonight is the possibility of a technology study committee. If this committee is formed, the LEA would like to encourage the inclusion of members of the staff on the makeup of that committee. There's been a lot of work done by the existing tech committee regarding the technology needs of the school, and we believe that the people that are in the building on a daily basis should be a part of any tech decisions being made. I'd also like to speak tonight about the unfilled tech specialist position. Our tech specialist resigned on February 9th. Since that time, there isn't anyone on staff to help when a student, teacher, or staff member has a tech issue. On February 1st, the LEA sent a letter to the board expressing our concern around this position and reminding you all of recommendation 3C of the current Lyme School Strategic Plan, which states, develop a process for providing professional development to support the implementation of technology practices and philosophy. We, the teachers, are unable to implement technology practices and philosophy without the appropriate support personnel to assist us in doing so. Our former tech specialist developed a system of tech tickets that we submit when we have a problem. As of this afternoon, there have been 52 tech tickets submitted since the February 9th resignation. For example, the only printer that students have access to isn't working. Prior to February 9th, the tech specialist would have fixed it. Now there is nobody on staff to do that. And if a student wants to print, they need to send their work to a teacher so that it can be sent to another printer. This is just one example of all those tickets. Teachers and staff are helping each other as we always do. We're making it work the best we can as we always do. But each minute spent troubleshooting, figuring out, and putting a Band-Aid on the situation is one less minute spent planning and implementing instruction for the children of Lyme. We have been hired to teach, and we need a tech specialist to support that instruction. We have been told that the board has halted the process of hiring for this position. The LEA requests that the board fill this position so that the students and their instruction are no longer negatively impacted. I will provide another report with additional information at your meeting next Tuesday so that you're up to date on how this unfilled position is impacting student learning. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak on behalf of the LEA.
Thank you, Tom. We'll have that attached. All right, so next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. I will openly admit that I messed up all of the dates, but I did correct them in the most recent versions that are online. So I will try to move them as a slate. There is February 17th public minutes, February 17th non-public minutes, and February 28th public minutes. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll move that.
Moved by Glenshaw.
I'll second that.
Second by Williston. Is there any further discussion? Does have an opportunity to review?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? And I guess the only people who can approve them are the board members that were on before. All in favor of the minutes as written. That's five. Okay, thank you. Next item, Janet, is you for the MS-22.
Is Jenna, I don't know if Jenna's
Jenna's
on.
on.
Oh, she is, okay.
I'm here, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, good. I dropped the MS-22 in the board folder so you guys could take a look at it. This is just the document that goes to the DRA, which is a culmination of the voting process that we had on March 3rd. And it's really just for you guys to review it and then sign the front sheet. So I sent 2 full copies and just wanted to be available too if you had any questions after you took a look at it.
Sounds good. You guys have enough? It basically just says who you are.
Jenna, it's on its way around the table and people are signing it without question. They trust your.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I have a silly question. Does the moderator need to be on there or any of that? Because there was.
No, it's just the school district clerk because she's the one who keeps track of the vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, it's just-
No, okay, just the signature is good enough. Okay. Frank, next one is for you, the school district scheduled meetings for the school.
Okay, I don't know if people have this. I'm a paper person, so if everyone has this, what I did, I just went through your meeting schedule from last year. we had talked about earlier meetings that most members were interested in Thursdays at 7 o'clock. I think it's the third Thursday, so should put that on there. But so it's the third Thursdays, and it's your basic schedule. You should approve it and get it posted so people kind of know what to expect. And of course, at any given meeting, you can add, subtract, or change what you do. So it's just one of those things that you should approve at your reorg meeting.
And are they all at 7? Sorry, I just closed the sheet. Or am I
Yes.
wrong?
These
They
are
all
all
start at
at
7?
7 unless you do them differently than a previous.
Would anyone like a paper copy?
The district meeting starts
Make a
at
copy.
6. Yes, please. So the March 10th one starts at 6 p.m.
Start at 6.
Yeah.
So that's the March 2nd.
Yeah.
So do I have a motion to approve these meetings?
I'll move that.
Moved by Glenshaw, second by
Greenway.
any further discussion? All in favor? All right. Approval for the official newspaper for legal notices.
Janet wasn't sure if you usually do this or not. It's something you should do if you haven't. And all it does is let people know that if they're going to track your business and they want to know, they know where to go to look to know. They don't have to go searching. So just like you post your meetings in certain places, for example, your warrant for your district meeting always goes into V-News. And so, yeah, you should have an official place to put it. There are districts that use the Kearsarge shopper because a whole lot of people get that and that's what they choose to use. So, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but it is a nice thing to do.
We need to vote on it.
But does this bind us to posting our meetings in the
Not all your
Valley News?
meetings, just things like the warrant and those kinds of things.
Oh, which I think we do. in the Valley News.
Yeah, you
But
do
the-
already. You do this already.
Yeah.
It's just you've never actually officially said this. So it's really kind of beyond a choice.
Should we vote on it?
Yeah.
Do I have a motion?
I'll motion it.
Jen and Jonathan? Any further discussion?
Which newspaper is it? It's the Valley
Valley
News?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we'll spell that out, right?
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. All right, so next one is appointment of committee chairs. And again, I did not speak to everybody. I have ideas. But I didn't speak to everybody about all my ideas. So I'm going to go through the list that's on here. For policy committee, I've been chairing it for the past years. So I think that, and we've actually made headway and really transitioning to board docs. I'm the one who's been on the training, and we will get all of you on the training soon enough. So I will continue on there. And let me know if anyone is opposed to any of this. For finance committee, I'd like to have Jonathan. For buildings and grounds, Jim. I haven't spoken to you about this. The technology study committee to have Vince. For personnel, please to continue on that. For high school committee for Elizabeth. And then for the budget committee rep to have Jen, and the library rep to be Jen.
Yes.
I think that's everything. Oh, the COVID committee rep. I don't know if we need to continue that, or Frank, that's up to you.
I'm gonna nominate you, Yola, if we do need to continue that, just because of your medical background. And then we can decide.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I was just taking a minute to think about it, but we've gone through this once before where we thought we were out of the woods and then we weren't. So I'm thinking, yeah.
Keep as is.
Yeah, let's just keep it active in the event we do need it, it'll be there.
Okay.
So then Yola, are you going to be the rep?
Yeah. I'll be doing that. And I don't think, we don't need to vote on any of those. If you guys can all think about them, nobody's going to be, I'm assuming that none of these committees are meeting by next week, so. If anyone wants to change them around.
So do you have the committee?
And then the members will talk, I'll talk to each of the people to come up with members.
Got
Yeah.
it. And how about the budget?
No wonder you didn't want to be.
The budget rep was gonna be Jen.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Not good
Yeah.
stuff for me.
All right. Discussion of the school board interview process. I will turn it over to Nikki and Tom. Who's first?
I will go first. So I have just a
It's not the
quick,
school board, it's the superintendent. and
Right.
Principals.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just for the recording.
Yes, no, absolutely, you're right, for the superintendent and the principal search.
Thank you.
So glad you're our chair.
so this is just a bulleted list of, very brief rundown of where we've been and where we're headed. So we had 7 applicants. We did 3
Nice.
interviews on Thursday. We have 2 more tomorrow morning. We'll come up with our top 2 by the end of this week. And then next week, this is still tentative, but we're hoping to have superintendent visits on Tuesday, the 22nd and Wednesday, the 23rd. And we're going to provide a window for the board to conduct interviews in non-public. If that time doesn't work for the board, then we'll leave it up to you to determine a time when it does work for you all. And our recommendation is that the board offer a contract to a candidate on or prior to March 31st.
What time would those candidate visits be held? Is that during daytime hours, or what were you thinking?
It would be daytime. The tentative, again, plan right now is that they would come visit for an afternoon, and then following, as late as we can push it into the afternoon after the school day, they would have a time to meet with the public, and then we would give the time for the board to meet. But if the board decides that doesn't work for you all, then we wouldn't schedule another non-public. That would be up to you all to talk to those candidates.
Because this overlaps with when the candidates are in town. That's what you're saying. You have 2 candidates. You want to try to get one in on Tuesday, the 22nd, and one in on Wednesday, the 23rd.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's the idea that we have.
Yeah.
We have at least one candidate who who I think is a strong candidate who clearly is interviewing in other places. And this person pretty clearly asked for what our timeline was and, is going to need to know. So that's kind of one of the reasons why we want to make this happen, because we don't want to lose a candidate.
Right.
The other reason
Right.
is Frank will be out of town the first week of April, then it's April vacation, so then we're looking at April 18th, which is pretty late to be keeping somebody waiting.
Now, one thing that could happen is even if we make, because it's important that we as a board meet with the candidates, it's like the supers are like primary employees supposedly, right? So what happens if we make a nomination or we make an offer on the 31st and that person sits on it and waits? Because the offer's for 2 weeks and then they have their time.
I don't know.
I think we can give them, I don't know what the appropriate time is, but we give them as little time as it's appropriate and hope they give us an answer quickly.
You got till 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that would.
Janet, is there a typical time that you can?
Yeah, but you're right, though. You can
It's
give them
typically
some
a
time
week
to
or
think
2.
about it, because they may want to reflect and negotiate.
Let's do it.
I've been been in an interview, and just the last question is, if we were to offer you this position, would you be interested, just to kind of get their gut reaction? So I think that's a fair question to ask. Just to kind of get an idea so that if you move forward, then you have a sense of whether they're interested.
And their timeline. So if you know you're offering it to one, find out the other one's timeline.
Yeah.
Crunch for
That
time.
could be a board question.
So to continue the thought of the process, so if we're meeting with somebody on the 22nd and another person on the 23rd, then I guess we would continue the conversation after we met with the person on the 23rd. We would have your and the public's input at that point, I mean, in order to make a decision.
Well, the decision would be a vote on the 31st or before, whenever you all decide to do that. So yes, you would have all of the feedback. We're going to give a survey to anyone that meets. We're going to ask people to meet both candidates so that it's not just, I like this guy and I have no idea what that guy. So anyone that's able to meet both candidates, we're going to send a survey to. We'll gather all that data. We'll make a recommendation and then we'll pass that recommendation on to you by Friday the 25th. So then it's up to you all to, individually ponder and then come together as a board and vote on which one.
So we'll have to meet after the 23rd and before the 31st.
Yeah, well, we'll meet on the 24th because we already have a meeting scheduled for that day. The timing might be a little tight, but it could work out. if it doesn't, because saying the 22nd and 23rd assumes that our candidates can, can come, so there's kind of some organic flow to that. But
you won't
yeah.
know until the 25th with like the
Oh,
teachers would
yeah,
say.
so we'll have to meet. Oh, shoot. Well, I can probably Zoom. I'm in Florida the last week of March. So I won't be back until possibly April 1st. But I can figure that out. If I can Zoom, it's no vote. If I can Zoom, I can figure that out, but it'll be drawing me away from that.
So we would have to meet early in the.
Just to
week
let
of
you
the
know
28th,
ahead of time.
Right?
What is no, what'd you say is no vote? Oh, you wouldn't be able to vote.
I wouldn't be able to vote because, we just had this conversation
No,
earlier.
yeah, I
and
heard
You
that, I
can't
heard
vote
that.
virtually anymore.
Oh,
Which-
really?
Yeah, Frank was telling us this is.
Yeah, but
So that pushes us all to be here.
it should be fine because I doubt that, I don't know.
That was a
It
lot of
would-
fun of the emergency. I
Okay.
can see you looking confused.
Yeah, no, I'm not confused. I'm just thinking that's.
Oh,
important.
So if I can't vote, then potentially we'd be deadlocked. Or it's gonna go one way or the other.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter if I vote or not. Maybe, unless it really, really does. Did everybody see that Curb Your Enthusiasm where every vote counts? If you haven't seen it, I'm gonna send it to you, and I may be eating my words. All right.
So any other questions about that? Superintendent search.
So afternoon of Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday board meeting for next week.
When you say afternoon,
Yeah,
is
how
the
we're
thought
on.
process.
I mean, this is all very tentative, I don't even know if they can make it yet, but in
I
my
see.
mind, it would be 3 or 3:30 or 4,
Is there a thought in terms of doing dinner or anything like that?
not from the committee.
Yeah, like, because if board members couldn't make it, but I'm looking like Tuesday, Wednesday, nothing's open. Is Ariana's open? Tuesday or Wednesday, and the tavern's closed, so we'd have to go to Hanover. And the only place I know to eat there is Pine. And I offered to pay for dinner, but I don't want to pay for dinner. Pine. I might. So.
Well, so that's something for us to find out. a little more then.
We could.
I mean, it's an important thought
It's-
because just to fill the gap, because I know that a lot of us won't be able to make 2 days in a row in the afternoon.
Or 3, including the board meeting.
Yeah, so I don't,
It's the evening,
that's,
so.
we recognize that that's an issue and we weren't sure, we can't really dictate or, tell you all when you have to be there. This is an option that we came up with and then it's up to you all, once we've sort of finished our portion. We're hoping to get it done by the 31st and hoping that you're able to do what you need to do for that.
And that
Well,
would be
there's
great.
always Stella's takeout. We could do, we'd always do it at my house. I don't mind. Like if a candidate would want to do that, but they may feel like COVID uncomfortable, like I just don't.
So once we
I
have
don't know.
the 2 candidates, then I think that maybe would it be appropriate for our board chair to reach out to them and organize that time?
As far as I'm concerned, yeah, I mean, once we had like the start of that timeline from you.
Right.
And we came up with our own flow chart, which I think I just sent
Yeah.
you. And our committee's work, as far as we can tell, is come up with 2 candidates and kind of hand them over to the board and then it's on you.
Yeah, for some of these people, there's some driving involved. So coming twice might be.
And that's what we were trying to wrap.
It
in
might be a
on.
little burdensome.
Okay.
Or not, I just don't know.
Mhm.
But when you're not offering to put people, you know what I mean? Like if we were offering to put them up for the night and wanted to meet the next day or something, that's one thing, but to ask people to drive back and forth, I feel like that's a lot.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you. How are you guys doing?
We are doing good. I don't have a handy dandy bulleted list, but I do have a write-up and I'm happy to send it to you after. The principal committee met twice prior to reviewing the applicants. Priorities for this role were discussed and a rubric was developed to aid in the review of applications and selection of candidates to review. Out of the deadline for applications was March 4th. We received 18 applications. Out of the 18 applicants, only 5 applicants had at least 2 years principal experience in public high schools, plus current principal certification. We scheduled 5 interviews, however, 2 dropped out prior to the interviews. And in the ad, we had stated that the interviews would be held March 7th through 11th. We interviewed 3 candidates and only 1 met our rubric standards. We had planned to bring 2 candidates forward, but we would like to move forward with the only viable candidate who far exceeded any comparison interviewees. There is a half-day agenda on March 21st, which can include a slot for school board members if desired. Also included are time slots to meet with myself, the interim super, the principal in the main office, business office, lunch with K kids, and a meeting with 5 to 7 middle school kids. There's a staff meet and greet after school on the 21st, which will be followed by a survey, and then a community meet and greet with written input was originally scheduled to be the week of March 28th, but we're trying to pull it forward if possible so that we can bring forward a candidate for the 24th. We also have just highlights of the reasons and the characteristics of the finalists that support our recommendation.
Have we gotten any other applications since?
So the deadline was the 4th. We followed a pretty stringent process of unbiased process that was set forward, and we said we would not pick anybody to interview until we had all of the applicants. So we have not, the deadline was the 4th, and we haven't received any other than the 18th.
I guess we have to do that.
We might have, yeah, I heard that there might be somebody else. I'm not sure if they are interested or what we should do because they didn't meet the deadline.
Right.
And we're not sure if they're interested. They applied to the superintendent position.
I don't know,
Oh, that's.
Janet, correct me if I'm wrong, if there was one that came in, I think on Saturday or completed everything by Monday, is that correct? Which I didn't have a chance to blind, so I didn't know, and I said, well, you guys had
The weekend
enough.
of the 4th.
Yes,
Yeah, so
That
on Monday,
Saturday.
we reviewed all the 18. That
Okay.
brought us to 18. There was actually 2 that came in the weekend after the
Okay.
4th.
Yeah, we did.
I lost track, so. I don't know
Yeah,
if I
that's
did.
okay. Thank you. You were in Monday blinding.
I was
that-
Monday,
those two,
I
so
was
thank
there
you.
blinding, but there was one, so I didn't know if you wanted me to, if there was any other ones, if you
I
wanted me to
don't
take a
believe
look at
there's any
them.
more, but
To
if there's,
blind or not, or-
Who would know?
Janet,
Yeah.
but she hasn't.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Are there any outstanding principal applications that need to be blinded?
I do not believe so. Mickey said there were 18. I believe that's the total count.
So out of 18, you liked 5, right?
5 had principal experience
Mhm.
in public schools and certification. None of the other 13 had both of those things.
And then we had some dropout.
Well, the 2,
Out of
right?
the
So you had
5, 2
5 and
dropped.
then you
Yeah,
only
2 dropped
interviewed
out.
3 because
Right.
2 dropped. But, and so you didn't get any more applications after the 4th of March that haven't been viewed,
After that weekend.
right? Okay.
So I have a question about, I think I remember having a conversation about this and experience, yes, but I know we were going to make it a national search, and the certification, is that New Hampshire certification that these people did or didn't have, or any certification?
They did not have principal certification. I believe the ones that we interviewed had current New Hampshire certification.
Was anyone interviewed that was, or in that 18 who had principal experience elsewhere but was eligible for certification?
I'm not sure, but they didn't have 2 years experience. We
Yeah, it
kind of
would be-
ruled out anybody that did not have 2 years' experience
Would you-
or did not have.
Would you say that any of those applications looked strong and it was just in spite of not having? I mean, I would be very hard pressed to hire a principal who had no experience. So
They
I'm
didn't
like, I'm
have
with
it.
you
They
there,
really
but
didn't
did they
have it.
look like they didn't look like, oh, too bad, what if, or like they had. an
No,
assistant
it wasn't like
principal?
they popped up like really unique, like, ooh, this is a
Yeah.
great, no, it wasn't like that. And the committee each used the rubric, and we were pretty solid in the cases that rose up and didn't rise up. You know, we had a little bit of variation by candidate, but, you know, Frank, right, correct me if I'm wrong, but we were pretty consistent about where we all thought it made sense to go forward and
Yeah.
interview or drop. It was unfortunate. I mean, 2 of our top 3 candidates pulled out, so
Any indication as to?
you know, we just got the message that they dropped, so I can't.
And what took you from 3 to 1? What were the sort of the rubric criteria that excluded them?
We did the applications we did on a 3-point scale of, yes, we thought they should.
No, she and I got the 3 we interviewed, I think.
Yeah, so for the applications, we did a 3-point scale of, yes, we thought they were worthy of being interviewed, maybe or no. So that's how we picked the 5. And then the rubric, which is on the principal search document, we
No.
scored and went through the questions. And I do have feedback on the one person that I can read to you if now is the appropriate time.
No, because we're in public, like, I don't know, I wouldn't want any,
Yeah.
like, identifying
Okay.
information to come out.
Yeah.
The 2 people that you felt weren't strong, was that fairly like unanimous across the committee, or did
Well,
you?
Yeah.
The 2 people that you
Of the
felt, you
the
have 3
2 that we
candidates,
didn't want to take
Right.
forward, we were unanimous.
like everybody
We
felt
went from
that
3
way.
to 1.
Yes.
Yeah,
We were-
all,
Alright.
the
that
whole
was
committee
unanimous
with
with
the
a
committee.
large discrepancy.
Yeah, there was no question in the end, unfortunately.
So this seems a little narrow for comfort. And I understand why some were excluded. Clearly people were applying when they didn't quite meet the criteria on the posting, but I guess we knew we were going to get that when we opened up this type of search. And yeah, I think that, you know, it sounds like we're putting, I think the board had hoped to have at least an option for an option. Is there?
Yeah.
any
I
way
think it's,
to
I
move
think
this
it's
forward?
fine, like, we have this one person come, if we're not all very comfortable with this one person, then we're potentially looking at another interim year, if we're not comfortable hiring this person.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that there's a strong possibility, we have a very strong principal candidate who applied for superintendent, who's a less strong superintendent candidate. So the committee will talk about that. We could see if that person wants to interview. This person may or may not want to.
Mhm.
So that's a possibility. So we may have 2 principal candidates, but I mean, that's all we can do is bring this one person, interview them, and either everybody's like, oh my God, we love this person, and everybody wants, you know, if there's any reservation, I mean, I don't know, you know, then we have to hire another interim principal
ask-
to help us for a year.
2-pronged question then. Would that mean that we first ask the candidate if they would consider the principal position, or do we ask the principal search committee to look at that?
No, we
Right,
ask the
that
candidate,
applicant.
we ask the candidate, because the
Needs to kind of-
candidate, there's no point. If the
Is it
candidate
right?
doesn't want to,
But it does need to go through both
yes.
steps.
Yes, and then the
And-
committee will decide whether they agree with the superintendent committee that this is a strong candidate or not. But I would
Yeah, so
ask that person first.
I would agree. I think we would, if that was the case, we had the 22nd available for the staff meeting, so we would be, if we were able to get the committee back together and interview prior to the 22nd. offer by the eighth, say by Friday, so
Right.
that we could let the person know, you
Yeah.
know, our time frame when they could come in on the 22nd and do that half day, which is from kinder lunch to the staff meeting. And please let me know in either scenario if the board would like a slot of time just for a meet and greet.
So let me just toss this in. If you had one candidate comes forward, you are not comfortable, you know, for whatever the reasons. The way these things work generally is it's kind of like 2 cycles, and you're at the end of this, of what is, it sounds like a cycle 1. And people are getting hired, people are getting offered jobs, other people are going to still be looking. So there's time to do a re-advertising and see if there are 2 or 3 more people who might pop up, who may have been interested in some other place that they get, you know, they came in second or whatever reason they didn't get that job, who might still apply. You have time, if you're gonna hire an interim, there are lots of folks who can do a really good job for you in terms. Some are folks who have retired and were willing to work for a year. I know a person who would be awesome. Not interested in doing full-time anymore, but would be great. 1 year would fit in really well here. Also as an interim principal. I have no idea if she's interested, but anyway, I think there is opportunities. It's not, you know, the end of the world. And do not hire somebody you are not really comfortable with because you feel you have to have somebody, because there are alternatives out there.
Can I ask a question about what you just said and something you said, Jen? Like you said, like if we're not all on the same page with it, is it a vote or is it like a unanimous consensus?
I don't know. That's the odd thing, right? Because typically the board would only vote on the superintendent and the superintendent hires well, how would it work? The superintendent, typically staff members are nominated and the board approves them.
So if the superintendent's on the search committee, would you not take the recommendation of the superintendent for that principal?
They may or may not. They don't have to. Otherwise, there's no reason to bring it to the board. So, you know, you bring the recommendation and then it's up to the board. And that's why the board will do their, you know, they may want to ask some questions or meet the person at least.
So it's up to the board to vote or come to a unanimous decision?
Doesn't have to be unanimous.
What's that?
No, it does not have to be
majority.
unanimous, however they would like to decide, really. Sometimes it's just a consensus, yeah, go ahead, you go, cool. Other times, I prefer when boards make decisions that they take a vote, that there's a record. Just because I think that's better. It's a better practice in general.
Which we do with all staff members. Like in the time that I've been here, we've hired 2 staff members. And in those cases, the DA officially nominated the person and then advocated for that person. And then we, I think, typically agreed to hire
By
that
vote.
person. By
By
vote, yes,
vote.
always by vote. Yeah, we've always voted on it.
Oh, thank you.
Are there any other agenda items? Sorry, I don't have the in front of me.
Today,
No, we're gonna talk about the technology
yeah,
staff
the technology
committee.
we probably should talk about, but I don't know if that's non-public or not. I don't think it's.
I'm asking because I would like to go into non-public to get more information about this one candidate, since if there's not a,
Oh.
there's no competition at this point. I don't know that there would be a conflict of interest.
Well, but we haven't gone through
I'm
the
super odd.
21st yet, so we don't have all the feedback. I mean, the next
Oh,
round would
I'm
be
not
when you-
suggesting we voting on that person.
no, but where you're gonna get more information on it. I mean, I guess we can update what we learned. But you're gonna get a
That-
lot more from the feedback from the teachers and the admin team and the public.
But I would be happy to go.
There's
We would be happy to
Yeah,
go into
possibility,
non-public
no, but
because
we may not
the
be able to do
committee
that person.
I see.
decided
Okay.
that we wanted to keep the timeline, so.
Right.
Because we didn't want to lose somebody that was. superior to the alternate applicant.
Do we are moving around more?
Well, we are welcome to move into
Yeah, I think I
non-public.
went to non-public for
RSA.
91A3.
C.
Or C,
Or higher
matters which
C.
are discussed in public. Well,
We have a motion. Jen and Hayes.
I think it's C,
It would be C because it's,
or it's B, the hiring of any person as a public employee.
Because this is where you're gonna start taking some minutes.
I'm busy already.
I'm
Oh, I have to
so
report the time.
excited.
All
I'll
right.
send you the
so
template.
to the public, thank you for
Under
joining us.
protest.
We will be going into non-public. And
promised to
I
write
will
it
stop our recording. It is, what time is it? It is 8:53. Thank you for joining us.
Is Elise going to stay?
Oh,
Elise, would you like?
She's
would
on
you
the
be able to stay?
superintendent committee.
Yeah. Elise and Janet, if you guys could both stay on.
Yeah.
So for those of you who didn't leave, thank you, because we've changed our minds and we're gonna stay in public and then do non-public a little later. So to talk about the Technology Study Committee. Frank, I will ask you to lead off on this.
Okay, so I don't think it's,
Yes.
I would like this, the technology issue to find closure. And so my recommendation to this board is that they put together a study committee that can work really fast and look at a couple of things. Clarify what the needs are at the school. This comes to, I'm bringing this to you after having conversations with a whole lot of people, school people, individual members of the board that have spoken to me and a few others. And so there seems to be confusion around the roles. There seems to be confusion around the job description that got developed. Exactly what the needs are and what's appropriate for a district this size. So I would like the study committee to do a really quick look at some of the other school districts that are like us, that are similar to Lyme. I'd like them to revisit that specialist job description and decide if, yes, this is what we wanted, this is what we approved, no, it's not, or whatever, because when I looked at it, it's a markup. It's not in final form, and there are questions that have been asked since, and that needs to be settled. And then we have to talk about what you want for essential qualifications for the person who's going to fill that. In the meantime, I would like, I guess, permission to take some action to solve the 52 tickets. I was told and made to believe there were a few. 52 is a whole lot different than a few. So there may be, I can find someone, I have a couple of leads on people who do this work who might be able to take care of those tickets while the study committee gets their work done, because what's of prime importance is that we're not delaying learning or impacting negatively on learning. And I think we're kind of on that place. Especially we have assessments coming up statewide that need to be taken care of. So I'd like to have feel comfortable that you guys are all comfortable letting me see if I can't find someone to contract with to come in and get that stuff done. The one printer simply needs to have a part replaced. I mean, it's in the paper tray. It's like, I don't know, I don't know why. So anyway, I'd like to do that. But I'd like that committee and membership on that committee. Yes, board members. Yes, people who are trusted, who are knowledgeable in the field, and definitely some folks from the school who are living this every day. And I'll sit in on those meetings as well to help mediate and facilitate if that's what's required. But we got to get this thing put to bed because it's impacting a lot of stuff that is unnecessary, I think.
So I think if you need to find somebody to contract with to solve issue tickets, I mean, I think that's fine. Obviously, something needs to happen. But what I would also say is that it's a rationale to provide to explain why I think we need some redundancy in function. And I think personally that at minimum, the library media specialist should be able to do these things, even if it's not that person's primary job description. If the tech support position is this important, what if somebody gets sick for 2 weeks? Or, you know, you always have the get hit by a bus argument. If this position is that crucial, and, you know, unlike a teacher, a long-term substitute like can't be identified for it, then we should have somebody else inside the school with the capacity to understand the system and the infrastructure and how to fix these things. And I think that the library media specialist should be able to do that, because in my mind, that makes sense, given that person's function and what their understanding of the media should be.
So I have a historical view on this, or question really, which is my understanding is that role was supposed to be able to do this. Is that not the case anymore?
So I wasn't on the board then, but the conflict was, as I believe it, with the last person who had the role, was that the job was not described in that way, but the expectation for that person to play that role was there, but the job description wasn't written. So when that person took the job, they didn't want to do that, and therefore they left. And when a new person was hired, there was no longer, the expectation was not attached because it was felt that nobody would want to do both. But I think that if you set the expectation and you hire the right person, then you'll hire you'll hire somebody who can and is willing to do those things. You have to write the job description correctly.
Do we know, I mean, there was research done before, as in the process of all of these hirings and the positions and everything, do we have research, like, is there data already so that this committee doesn't have to reinvent the wheel and do all the searches again?
We presented that all to you.
So that was
What
the
other
state
districts did?
stuff, okay, so the
That
Korean
was
part,
just the salary. for
but that
the
was
tech
mainly the
specialist.
salary stuff.
So what
I'm
data
thinking
you-
like from last spring, when
When the
our
job
former
was-
media specialist was on, in the tech committee at that point, is there documented some sort of like,
Guidance as to the
like,
needs
how did they
that the
do?
school
Yeah.
has for technology.
Like the tech plan?
Well, we have a tech plan, or there's a draft of the tech plan, but I think that fundamentally, my sense is that the answer to the research that you want is not there. That's my sense, and that came up in a recent finance committee meeting.
What research are you looking for?
No, I'm thinking like, so the schools around our area, what do they have? What do other schools our size have across the state? It's not just kind of, I mean, asking Hanover is one thing because it's local, but if you ask somebody in Manchester, it's not comparable. So it doesn't even matter kind of what they have. But another school like Plainfield,
Yeah, we have the schools.
things
that
like
you
that.
compare yourselves
That's what I
to.
mean, yeah.
That it gets to Frank's point about what a district our size, how are other districts in New Hampshire who run a K-8 school and have about 200 students, how are they staffing their tech departments? Or how, like Cornish and Plainfield, for example, I think they share some of the resources, just as an example. And they do that in an effort to keep costs down. And that's what, before we hire for these positions, what I think we should do is we have 15 schools on a list that have about the same number of kids that we do, and they operate a K-8 school, and they either tuition or participate in the co-op for high school. So their high school kids are different budget, right? So they have a K-8 budget. I want to divide this list up and have everyone on the board, just however many people we have and who can do it and who can't, like everybody take 3 districts and just call them and ask them how they're managing this. Because we can't really afford in perpetuity to have a library media specialist, a contracted tech director who's managing the infrastructure and the network and the phones and the really like bird's eye level stuff, and an on the ground tech specialist who's here from 8 to 3 every day to solve everybody's like Google Chrome issues and the printer breaks down. We just can't.
And also looks into, go ahead.
Can you afford that for the rest of this year with the ESSER funds and the money that's already in the budget? Because that's what we're looking for. That sounds like a plan that you would implement for perhaps hiring for September or.
Right.
August.
No, that's exactly true, which is why I think Frank, like I need the I mean, that's just my opinion. I think Frank should look, I think we should give him the ability to look to contract with somebody, whoever we can find to come in and do this for the rest of the school year.
Some salary dollars were freed up though, when the resignation came in, right?
Well, we only had her in the budget. So the person who resigned was only budgeted for a 0.5 para position. So really that's half the year. And the other 0.5 was going to come from ESSER 3, but but we
So we have.
don't
we
have
that.
ESSER 3. Did we get approval?
Yes.
Yeah. We did.
Yeah, so we have the money to hire somebody,
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it, that person to get through this year. I don't like the idea of the school board, everybody taking 3 schools.
Okay.
It just kind of gets you a little bit out of the rails where you ought to be. That's why you have an administration. So not that I need more work, but I would like to work with the folks we assigned to this committee and work with them. They can gather that
Okay.
information, just like your principals committee is gathering that information and bring it back. If the board sets the parameters of what do you want that committee to tell you, and you've done a really nice job of going through all that. And
Maybe you want to be that committee.
so.
I don't want to be the committee. I would be on the committee. I would be on the committee for sure. I would be willing to be on, but I'm not chairing it.
Yeah, I think that I already got thrown under that bus. didn't
No,
I?
not the plan, no. But the technical-
I asked the same
What-
question
what
again.
I've seen, I haven't
Well, but
heard
the
about
plan
All of
has
that is
to
gonna
do-
take time.
Yes,
Yes.
but they've developed a separate. job
Secured the
description.
funding,
Yes.
you posted the
And
position,
that may be.
there's an applicant to the position.
Down to the end of the year.
Can you explain to me, without getting into personnel issues, why the process has been halted? When there's a process in place, budget, posting,
I don't know.
applicant, but then it stopped. And that, what you're talking about is gonna take time. And every day we don't have somebody in that position for all the other reasons, what you are all talking about. I understand the money and all that. But every day that you take another week to meet with the committee and then another week to find somebody and post and all that, is another week that we're all.
Well, I think that
That's
was-
just what I
this
just
is-
asked the board for permission to go to work on that and solve that for you in the short term. So that your work gets done, so nothing gets held up at school. I would like to meet with these folks in non-public alone and talk with them about some other thoughts around people. And see if we can't get somewhere.
Can I ask you a question of you, Tom, just going to this? Because when I first understood your statement, I didn't really understand it to be this year, just trying to get back up to speed on these issues. So is the LEA's position that they just want this position hired for this year and that you're open to whatever potential recommendation and input, given the LEA's input too, would be? I mean, I really don't know,
No, I
so
know.
I'm asking
I
a genuine
understand.
question.
The LA's position is that we need tech support. However, that's configured by the powers that be, as long as we have tech support.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
So as long as it's working, you're,
And
okay,
as of right now, we have 0 tech, we have a media tech specialist who has a full-time job, which is in the classrooms. We have no one to go fix an iPad or fix stuff, projectors, the bazillion things we have here.
Were
So
those
that's-
52 tickets like currently open? Or were
No, a lot
some
of them have been resolved
They
by the
haven't.
library media specialist, and like I said, we're helping each other out.
Right.
But those are how many have been submitted since February 9th.
How many are outstanding, do you know?
Well, I have one because my camera doesn't work on my laptop for Zoom meetings, and so that's beyond, it's a different set of problems. It's just so there's big problems, not just little I can't get my.
What would
I
you
can say, sorry,
It's not necessarily a big deal versus some tickets are huge deals, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes, so
I have
I could bring
outstanding-
it to the
Yeah.
Apple people and they could fix it,
Exactly.
but
we're not saying that the network is still giving us fits in this fifth grade room down here. Like, there's just 45 different little things that, again, a tech support person would be working on. Everybody else has a job.
Elise, did you have something you wanted to did you say?
Yeah, I
something?
just wanted to say that, at least half are not resolved. And they are things that people say, okay, I just won't do that now, or I won't use my camera like Mickey's saying. So, there are just a number of things that are piling up.
I will use this app that I was going to use. Yeah.
I do want to stress the timeliness of the orders that need to go in for tech equipment, because many things are backlogged since the pandemic too. So orders for schools go in at this time.
At least as long as you have the budget for those items, I don't think there's any holdup on those. And if they've been needed.
I don't have the contacts, I don't have the quotes that were given to that department, yeah, we can talk tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully.
He has to have those things, right?
I move to go into non-public.
I'll second that.
Gail,
Are we still, I mean, I think we're B and C now, Vince, because it is the hiring of employees.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would like to do this alone without any other outside people to support myself.
All right.
Thank you.
So with that, we're
Good night.
moving into
See
non-public.
you
Thank you,
tomorrow morning.
everybody. It is
Yeah.
9:11. I will be putting
Adios.
everybody into the waiting room.
Adios.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, yes, let Mickey do her, yes.
If she was gonna talk about.
Yeah,
Hold on, I gotta stop. You're going into a non-public? Okay, hold on. Let me stop recording.
It's been silly for you to do.
Stop.
Oh, right, that's